Good afternoon. Um, some of you may perhaps be thinking, when you look at these slides, that I have made a mistake and that I meant to write down alterations of consciousness or altered states of consciousness. But actually, this formulation is deliberate uh, because, according to the Hermetic perspective, which is my topic for today, we are all of us living in a collective state of hallucination constantly. We are in a state of hallucination, which is caused by the process of embodiment. So it's about the altered state of consciousness. So therefore, what we consider normal everyday consciousness is actually an altered state. Now, I hope that this works. Yes, it does. I'll be talking about an ancient spiritual practice that flourished among small networks of devotees in ancient Roman Egypt during the first centuries of the Common Era. These groups may have originated in this place here, in the Fayum area oasis, with a charismatic teacher who left no writings and who we do not know his name, but he was referred to as Agathos Daimon, the good daimon. This group of Agatho Daimonists, the followers of Agathos Daimon, became known under the name of his pupil, the pupil of Agathos Daimon, who called himself Hermes Trismegistus. And so this is how we come to think about this group of practitioners as Hermetists, followers of Hermes Trismegistus. Here you see the remains of the city in Middle Egypt. So we're really talking about the middle part of Egypt, Hermopolis Magna, the great city of Hermes. Contrary to Agathos Daimos, the oral teacher, the followers of Hermes Trismegistus did exchange texts written in Greek about the teachings of true wisdom. So that's how we know about them. Many of such texts have circulated at the time, but eventually they were prohibited, first by the Romans and then by the Christians, and many got lost. What we still have is the following. Yeah, there we go. So what was this Hermetic spirituality all about? Now, in my opinion, the true nature of Hermetic spirituality has been profoundly misunderstood. First by many generations of Christian writers, then by modern scholars, and also, I regret to tell you, by 20th and 21st century occultists. Basically, almost everybody has misunderstood them. I cannot go into the details here. Of course, I have half an hour, but let me just say the following. First of all, Hermetic spirituality was not about magic, not at least in any specific sense that has to do with any concern with power, control, or domination in any sense of the word. It was all about wisdom. So, wisdom. And by the way, it seems likely that the Hermetic community accepted women as well as men. So that's nice. Power against wisdom. Um, I show you this picture here to give the idea, because I think Tolkien's Lord of the Rings actually explains the basic points very clearly. As we all know, Gandalf and Galadriel are both offered the ring, and they refuse to accept it. Why? They do so because they have the wisdom to know that giving in to the temptation of power will corrupt the soul, and they will be corrupted. They do not fall prey to the dangerous delusion of arrogance, thinking that this may happen to others, but it will not have to happen to them because their intentions are so good, because they are so wise, they know better, and so on, and because the situation asks for them to take the ring. No, they resist the temptation because they know themselves. This is about gnosis in the self of self-knowledge. They know themselves better. They know that they will be corrupted if they accept the ring. So wisdom consists very precisely in the inner spiritual power. It is a form of power that allows them to recognize and resist the temptation of worldly power. And I think that our Hermetic writings are very much based upon that basic principle. Secondly, the Hermetic form of spirituality was also not about any attempt to escape from the material world or from the material body towards some kind of pure spiritual other world of pure harmony and bliss. On the contrary, it was all about embodying spiritual realities into this world and into the body. In this sense, the Hermetic message was the radical opposite of classic Gnostic dualism. We are dealing with a spirituality of radical non-duality here. It teaches that having been born in a physical body, and I'll come back to that seeming paradox in a moment, having been born in a physical body, we can be reborn in a superior energetic body that is no longer limited by time and space. Our consciousness then becomes one with the universe and is open to the ultimate noetic light of which the universe is actually made. And therefore, we are dealing here with a profoundly world-affirming spiritual worldview based on the key virtue of the Greek word eusebeia, profound reverence for the creative source of all that is. The word eusebeia is important. It is true, of course, that our Hermetic thinkers and authors were focused on the attainment of a gnosis. Almost everybody who's reading about Hermetism knows this. Gnosis as ultimate salvational knowledge of true reality. However, even those who never attain such ultimate gnosis during their lives will still be able to find salvation after death, if only they have lived lives with an attitude of eusebeia, which means reverence for life and for light. So gnosis is not necessary. It's essentially a bonus. Here we read some quotations. The standard for this double entity, the human being, is first of all reverence, followed by goodness. Whatever humans may be up to, out of error, recklessness, compulsion, or ignorance, all that the gods can overlook. Only irreverence comes under their judgment. So, the attainment of an ultimate gnosis during one's lifetime may be the pursuit of a small elite of extremely dedicated practitioners, but for the general population for whom this is too difficult, it is sufficient to try living lives of reverence in the service of life and light. Now, both Christians and modern scholars, I think, have, as I already said, misunderstood the Hermetic writings. First of all, because of an obsession with biblical and Gnostic models, which are largely or completely irrelevant because this is a totally pagan form of spirituality. And secondly, because of an obsession with dualistic concepts of mind versus matter or spirit versus body. These dualistic concepts have no relevance to the Hermetica. First of all, the main reason is because metaphysically, these were radical non-dualist, radical non-duality. There is no such thing as duality in the world, period. The true essence of reality, the whole of reality, consists of nothing but boundless noetic light. So they have the notion of light again. Here's a nice quotation from Corpus Hermeticum 1. Suddenly, in an instant, all things opened up before me, and I saw a limitless vision. Everything had become light, gentle and joyful, and it filled me with love. At that moment, Hermes actually sees reality as it really is. This universal light of divinity was referred to in Greek by the word nous. Now, anybody will tell you that if you look up nous in a Greek dictionary, you will read that it means things like mind or intellect, and that is how it's always translated. However, the Hermetica did not understand, I should say differently, the Hermetica do not mean by nous what we nowadays would understand by mind or intellect. So it's misleading to translate nous as intellect or mind. They are speaking about an utterly transcendent reality of boundless spiritual light. And that is what they call the nous. They claim that what we commonly refer to as the light of the intellect or the light of the mind and so on is actually nothing else than this luminous, um, universal divine reality, the nous. Now, this universal light of the nous is where our souls come from. However, we lose awareness of this universal nous when our souls move into the cosmos and are born into it. So, embodiment. Well, what is embodiment then? For the Hermetist, embodiment is not. It is not the descent of a spiritual reality or entity into a material body, as we usually imagine it, because they are radical non-dualists. There is no possibility of assuming spirit against matter. Rather, what embodiment means is a radical alteration of consciousness, an alteration of consciousness that causes our souls to experience a world of space and time. In other words, from an original state of crystal clear waking consciousness, in which we perceived reality as it really is, the soul comes to experience a state of hallucination, in which it perceives sensory phenomena. These do not exist in the real ontological sense, but they are perfectly real to our bodily consciousness as long as we are living in this world. Now, the moment we find ourselves born in a world of time and space, we immediately fall under the influence of the astral constellations that are operative at that specific moment and that specific point in space and time. Well, as most or all of you will know, this cosmic fate, this cosmic system of astral fate was known as the Haimarmene in Greek. So you fall under that influence. More specifically, according to the Hermetica, the astral constellations are presided over by daimons. There you have them. Here they come. Daimons. Daimonic entities that happen to be on duty at the particular moment when we get born. Because the constellations are constantly changing, the exact mixture of daimons that presides over our birth is different from one person to the next. Now, these daimons take possession of us. In the literal sense, our souls and our bodies get possessed by these beings, also referred to as tormentors. Well, today, of course, we think that our individual character is genetically defined. But the Hermetic authors attributed our personal emotional constellation to the activity of daimons in our body and our soul. And here's the relevant quotation. The daimons try to reshape our souls after themselves and arouse them, lying in ambush in our muscle and marrow, in our veins and our arteries, in the brain itself, reaching to our very guts. For as each one of us is born and receives a soul, the daimons, arrayed under each of the stars, who are on duty at that exact moment, take possession of him. For they change places from moment to moment, not staying in position, but moving by rotation. Those that enter through the body into the two parts of the soul twist the soul about, each towards its own energy. Yet, the rational part of the soul stands free of the tyranny of these daimons and remains fit to receive divinity. The essence of a daimon, we read elsewhere, is its energy. Well, what does this mean? It means that we are all of us filled with daimonic energies, which manifest themselves as passionate emotions and desires that cause us almost from the moment we are born to start running blindly after objects and pursuits that actually have no true reality and that are ultimately meaningless. In other words, we get obsessed, all of us, by fake images. Sounds familiar? So the idea is simple. Throughout our daily lives, the Hermetic authors tell us, our minds get filled with delusionary fake images that make a powerful appeal to our passionate emotions. So, for instance, we see something that annoys us and we immediately lash out. We start to attack. Or we see something that we desire and we start to running after it. And we think that we do this. But actually, we are not in control as we think. We allow our power to be taken away from us. In actual fact, we are being controlled by those daimons in ourselves that are constantly feeding us with negative and ultimately pointless emotions. They are keeping us addicted to whatever limited and limiting images may appear in our consciousness at any particular time and any particular place. If this is the case, and this the texts are telling us is the case, then what can we do about it? It is possible, although very difficult, to exorcise those daimonic entities. If we can manage to do that, then we will no longer be possessed. As a result, the hallucination stops. We stop being obsessed by whatever is right before us at any particular moment of time, and we start seeing the larger whole and the greater perspective. And we are no longer addicted. How does that work? How do you do that? Well, the central text here is Corpus Hermeticum 13, which is all about driving out daimonic energies or tormentors. And I ask you for a moment not to look at this picture as a depiction of God, the biblical God creating Adam, but to imagine that this is Hermes Trismegistus, who is busy driving out, exorcising the demons from the daimons, I should say, from his pupil Tat. Tat, as you can see, is in a meditative, altered state. Hermes is busy invoking 10 powers of noetic light. They drive out the 12 daimonic tormentors that keep Tat chained to temporal and three-dimensional reality. First of all, Hermes invokes 7 powers of light that correspond to the 7 planetary spheres. As you can see, he invokes gnosis of divinity, the joy of gnosis, self-control, perseverance, justice, generous sharing, and truth. Those are 7. And then, last but not least, he invokes the 3 supreme powers in the Hermetic universe, and these are life, light, and the good. So now we have 10. The 8th dimension beyond the cosmos is universal life. The 9th dimension beyond the cosmos is universal noetic light. And the 10th dimension is really the first as well. This is the one, also known as the good. It's described in Greek as the pege, the transcendent creative source or fountain of everything that exists. Now, these 10 these 10 powers of light literally blow away the 12 tormentors, 12 armies of daimonic powers that had been secretly dominating Tat's body and his mind. And so you see, here they go. They fly away with a rustling or a flapping of wings, as we read in the text. Now, their place in Tat's organism is then taken over by the 10 powers of light. I was very happy to find this image because it's really nice how Alex Gray pictures this. Because this is really what they describe. The powers of light weave themselves into a new energetic body of light that now animates the physical body. And so that is what the Hermetic authors meant by the spiritual rebirth. So, physical birth means coming under the dominion of the daimons and having our consciousness limited by the conditions of time and space. And this is in contrast with the rebirth. The rebirth, which can be defined as being liberated from the daimons and gaining unlimited conscious access to the entire cosmos, past, present, and future. This means attaining a new condition of cosmic consciousness, described in the Hermetica as becoming the Aion. And here's a quotation. I have found rest, Todd the pupil says, when this has happened. And I'm visualizing, not by visual eyesight, through the noetic energy. I'm visualizing not by visual eyesight, but through the noetic energy that comes from the powers. I am in heaven, on earth, in water, in the air. I'm in animals, in plants, in the womb, before the womb, after the womb, everywhere. I see the all, and I see myself in the nous. And yet, spectacular as this might be, this was not yet the end of the journey. Because having been reborn and having gained cosmic consciousness, the pupil still found himself inside the cosmos, not outside it. The pupil, Todd, could now perceive the cosmos with the gaze of divinity as an amazing imaginal spectacle containing literally everything that exists or has existed in time, space, anywhere. But he had not yet become one with divinity itself. That is to say, with the noetic lights beyond the world of phenomenal experiences. Now, in a unique Coptic source, the 8th and the 9th, the Octawat and the Ennead, found at Nag Hammadi, we see how Todd, the pupil, with his teacher Hermes, take one further step and move even beyond the cosmos itself. So here we see what happens. They do this by a ceremonial chant of the 7 Greek vowels, the 7 vowels of the Greek alphabet, arranged in such a way that they create the shape of a reversed pyramid that sort of opens up to the space beyond the cosmos. While singing these vowels on specific pitches, their consciousness rises up, step by step, through the 7 cosmic spheres until it reaches Saturn. Having reached that point, they then share a ritual embrace, we read. And I think it looks exactly like this, with their faces close together and in a specific kind of embrace. So they embrace each other, and then their consciousness immediately shoots up like a star out of the cosmos and right into the transcendent world of universal life and light. Here they are. In total amazement, they hear the silent hymns of the souls and in the 8th sphere, the Octawat, and the powers in the 9th sphere, the Ennead. And they even get a glimpse of the Pege, the ultimate source or fountain of all manifestation. This source itself, however, is beyond any description, as you can see. Such a being that cannot be perceived by the senses is unlimited, incomprehensible, and immeasurable. It cannot be captured, nor grasped, nor hunted down. Where it is, whither it is going, whence it has come, or how it is, or what, all that is uncertain. For it moves in sovereign stillness, and this stillness moves in it, be it divinity, or eternity, or both, or one in the other, or both in both. And so here we reach the limits of gnosis. We will never know what the source really is. We do not know where it comes from. We basically know nothing about it. All we know is that at the core of Hermetic spirituality, we find this source of manifestation. And the only attitude that's possible towards it is an attitude of a radical agnosticism. We do not know what it is. Gnosis or not, we will never know. We do not know the ultimate nature of reality or its source. That being said, even this ultimate experience of noetic light beyond language and comprehension is still not the final end or destination of the quest for gnosis, although it might seem so. Why? Well, the reason has been formulated very nicely by a non-Hermetic modern author that I would like to quote here, the American poet and channeling medium, Jane Roberts, in one of her best-selling set books. It's so nicely formulated that I want to use it here. You are not fated to dissolve into the source. The source is the creator of individuality, not the means of its destruction. In other words, this source is all about never-ending creativity, not about dissolution. Everything comes from the source. It's not meant to vanish back into the source. In fact, the Hermetica insist again and again that death does not exist. There simply is no such thing. All that truly exists is everlasting life and light. There's only being. There's no such thing as non-being. And again, Hermetic spirituality is not about escaping from this luminous living world of continual manifestation in which we find ourselves. It's not about leaving this world. Just 1 second. On the contrary, it is all about channeling the energies of divine light and life into our bodies, into our souls, and into the world. And the goal of that, and they're very explicit about it, is to make this world even better, more beautiful, and more in harmony with true reality, the good, the beautiful, and the true. This is also why the country of Egypt was described by the Hermetica as the temple of the whole world, where divinity was truly at home. Our world is supposed to be like a temple, suffused with divine light. We should think of ourselves, the authors tell us, we should think of ourselves as priests in the service of the temple of Eusebeia, in the service of this temple. But, however, a time will come, we also read in the Asclepius, when the gods are no longer suffusing this temple of reality with their light. They will depart from their temples because they are no longer being venerated. And as a result, the world will be deprived of the energies of light and life and will fall into a state of utter chaos and desolation. Only wicked angels will remain, and human beings will be utterly helpless to defend themselves against the power of daimonic entities. And this is the famous quotation that is often used, and I will use it as well. We read in the Asclepius, humans will be tired of it all, and no longer will the world appear to them as something admirable and worthy of worship. This perfect embodiment of all that is good will be deeply in trouble. Humans will find it a burden, and so they will hold it in contempt. No longer will they cherish this whole world, for shadows will be preferred over life, and death will be considered more profitable than life. Those who have reverence will be deemed mad, the irreverent wise, the lunatics brave, and the worst scoundrels will be regarded as decent people. For everything that has to do with the soul will be considered just a joke and dismissed as empty nonsense. Believe me, the death penalty will even be imposed on those who are devoted to noetic worship. Only wicked angels remain. They mingle with humans and brutally force those miserable wretches into all kinds of evil excess, into wars, looting, deceit, and all that is contrary to the nature of souls. Sounds familiar? Maybe. By the sharpest possible contrast, Hermetic spirituality was all about the beauty and splendor of what we call the natural world. As human beings, we are unique, they say, precisely because we are double entities who have the ability to participate simultaneously in the noetic realm of divinity and in the realm of material bodies. This is what makes it possible for us to act as channels for leading the energies of life and light into this world. Even though ultimately all is light, this light is supposed to be refracted. It's supposed to be spread into a colorful multitude of imaginable worlds, like gardens of earthly delight. All those embodied realities are supposed to be reflections imprinted in matter of the ultimate beauty, goodness, and true reality that emanates from the divine source. This inexhaustible pege, or fountain, is itself, as we've seen, beyond knowledge, beyond comprehension. its true essence escapes us, but it shows itself in everything that it brings forth. And therefore it is defined explicitly by the Hermetica in terms of infinite generosity. It does not need anything for itself. It is only ever giving. Human beings are supposed to live lives of gratitude in eusebeia, reverence, in recognition of these gifts of life and light. But in order to do so, we must be aware of the fact that we have entered actually a world of hallucination, in which we have come under the power of those daimonic devices that seek to distract us from true reality. And so it all started like this. Again, this photo. And there's a wonderful quotation also from the Hermetica, Corpus Hermeticum 10, where we read, "Look at the soul of a baby, my child, when it is not yet divided from itself, while its body is still small and not fully developed. It is so beautiful in every respect, not yet sullied by the bodily passions, and almost still hanging from the soul of the cosmos. But when the body has grown large and has dragged the soul down into its heaviness, then the soul is separated from itself and gives birth to forgetfulness. Then she no longer shares in what is beautiful and good. It is the forgetting that corrupts her. And because of that corruption, we end up like this." The question for Hermetic practitioners was perfectly simple. It was not all about attaining some superior superhuman gnosis. No, it was really about something more simple. The question for them was, how do we avoid wasting our lives by running like crazy after delusionary images that are polluting our imagination so that we end up spending all our energy on empty pursuits? In other words, what can we do, they asked themselves, against the power of those daimonic tormentors that manipulate our emotions and that cause us to engage in destructive behavior that is contrary to the nature of souls? That, I think, was their basic motivation. Now, I've tried to give you a glimpse of how the Hermetic authors were answering those questions, questions of general human importance that are, I think, as relevant today as they were almost 2000 years ago. Perhaps they are even more relevant today, given the profound meaning crisis that we are currently experiencing on a global scale. But take care. The Hermetic perspective is much more complex and profound than I could possibly explain in a short lecture of half an hour. I return back to this image here. Hermetic spirituality certainly involved resisting the temptations of power, the temptations of power and egocentric pursuits. And these also included for them the self-centered pursuit of gnosis as higher knowledge for ourselves. It also included grandiose, superhuman or transhumanist agendas of deification, even though higher knowledge as gnosis and even though deification, becoming one with divinity, were very important to their worldview, they did not understand these things in terms of power, but they focused on wisdom. Hermetic spirituality was about a humble search for wisdom in a spirit of service. That is, the search for knowledge and understanding of who we really are and what we're supposed to be doing in the world, not just for ourselves, but not for the benefit of ourselves, but for the benefit of humanity and for the whole natural world. That is what it was really all about. Not an easy thing to do by any means, but doable, perhaps. Thank you.